Hello everybody, AJ here for the Mighty Glue Stick. Today I bring you a special episode where I talk about the land of Chult, the history of the land of Chult, the people who live there, the creatures that can be found there, and the greatest threat that the world of Ubtao has ever known, and new threats brewing in the deep, dark jungles. So, where to begin? Let us begin with the actual beginning, the Blue Age, the Dawn War. And I know I really need to get around to making a series on the Dawn War. I seem to mention it a lot, don't I? So primordials and gods. The primordials are kind of bootstrap entities that were the first beings to exist in the D&D universe. They are raw, elemental, often self-sustaining, and as the name suggests, they are primal. They are a very diverse crowd, and they are often only interested in their own goals, and many of them are quite chaotic. The primordials are also very powerful, though they tend to be more blunt and localized than the gods. Gods, the pantheons, are entities of the astral sea. They exist as a dispersed consciousness spread across multiple dimensions simultaneously, manifesting grand architecture to reality by the force of willpower and through influence on the mortal followers by the collective will of the mortals and the everlasting souls under their sway. The shape existence, the shape of existence, and the way that they keep chaos at bay is all reliant on that. In the Dawn War, the primordials and the gods threw down and battled so hard that things just got crazy, and the D&D universe almost got completely wrecked, and the world of Ubtao, in a time when there wasn't any mortal life on the land, a very formidable, thoroughly evil primordial known as Dendar the Night Serpent actually took the sun out of the sky, plunging the entire world into darkness and transforming Ubtao into a snowball in space. Eventually, the Elder Gods, who won this fight, because the primordials were betrayed by one of their own, Ubtao the Deceiver. Then the war ended for a time, because Eshowe stepped in and separated the planet Abia and Toril and set them on opposite sides of the new sun from each other. So that one planet, Abia, was to be under the control of the primordials, and Toril was to be under the control of the deities, the gods. Ubtao made a deal with the Elder Gods, and they granted him sole custody of the land of Chult, where he had trapped Dendar the Night Serpent behind a planar portal and located behind a massive set of iron doors located in the volcanic mountain range called the Peaks of Flame. Ubtao infused the land with his life force, growing rich jungles with canopy of trees 100 feet high, and in this verdant and wild land he created dinosaurs and other primeval life forms. The creator races rose to power in this time, and Chult was the home of the first great empire. Thus, it is the spiritual home of all the races collectively known as the scaly kind. This is lizard folk and Yuan-ti and others. So lizard folk and kobolds called Chult home. Kobolds have a mountain range that they call home, and lizard folk are dispersed throughout Chult, and as do a distinct subrace of green-skinned goblins called the Batiri, and wild dwarves lead an isolationist and simple life of mining and simple farming. Saurian Terramen cleave close to the mountain ranges, and a population of naturalized human tribes wander between traditional campsites harvesting food from the area before moving on. The soil of Chult is not particularly good underneath the canopies and things, but there are areas of rich farming and things, and they tend to be contested quite a bit. And of course, open land in the land of Chult is one of the places where you can find dinosaurs stomping around. So it's a place that doesn't really lend itself to permanent structures that aren't very well protected. But we'll get to those locations in a minute. So despite being hunter-gatherers almost, the Chultan tribesfolk are fairly sophisticated, and they, while they're not rich in worked metal, the human Chultan will often use handmade implements and weapons such as short spears, half spears, bowlers, that sort of thing. clubs, and they will wear leather, typically a leather vest, and they will also carry an oval hide shield, much like an African tribesman, like a Zulu shield, which for all intents and purposes is the same stat-wise as a wooden shield. So the religion of Ubtao is pervasive throughout the land of Chult, and most of the religious ceremonies occur in the middle of the day when the sun is at its peak, and they believe that Ubtao is looking down on them. So he's also known as the father of dinosaurs, the creator of Chult, and the founder of Mezro, and of course the deceiver. His symbol is that of a round maze-like structure, and that may possibly be related to Dendar being trapped in some sort of extra-dimensional maze. But the gods and Ubtao believe that Dendar will eventually find his way back to the mortal realm, and that will be the end of the world of Toril. So essentially Ubtao exists as a early warning system, a gatekeeper of that portal that Dendar went into, and is waiting for the day when Dendar returns to essentially announce to the gods, hey, it's time to get out. It's time to step in and save everyone. Dendar is back to eat the sun again. Dendar is quite a nasty individual. It's an entity that survives on the nightmares of all living creatures. That's its sustenance. Much like there's some sort of relationship between darkness and Dendar, being the night serpent, and also a little bit of that rubbed off onto Ubtao as well. And as time went on, Ubtao sort of split into these spirit entities. So his consciousness became dispersed and became a series of integrated avatars that sort of became part of the landscape and part of the life force of the land there. So it could manifest itself as an area's spirit, like a dryad-like force, or a shambling mound type force, or a sentient dinosaur type force, or some sort of dire creature, or a mantle that passed from one to the other. And also as this other entity of shadow that existed underneath the jungle canopy. Now you've got to understand that the environment of the jungle of Chult is dangerous. It's renowned danger, and with good reason. It's a land which is rich with feral and very savage creatures, primordial creatures, primal, dire creatures, and there's also a lot of disease. Disease is rife. You'd have a hard time getting across the land without being very careful, boiling all of your water and things. If you drink unboiled water, you're bound to get a disease at some stage. So if you're going to run a game in Chult, bone up on how diseases work in the game. It's very important. Also how venoms and toxins and things like that, and how fatigue works in your game, and work that into your game as an environmental factor, because it's very hot, it's very sweaty, it's very humid. Some areas are so humid, particularly if you're in one of the deep mines of the dwarves, the wild dwarves, it can get so hot and humid that it actually surpasses human body temperature, so that if you're in an environment like that, you become a cooling mechanism. So the effort of the body to keep itself cool results in water actually condensing out of the air into the lungs of a human, which can be fatal if you're exposed to it for too long, because you essentially just drown in condensation that collects in your lungs. This is a true story. This actually happens in deep mines and things. So it's something you have to keep in mind. The faiths and many aspects of Ubtao, the dominion over the land, is pervasive. It's just assumed. And there's a holy city of Mezro, which was founded about over 4,000 years ago in the reckoning of the realms, which is populated almost entirely by humans. And for a very long time, it was magically shielded from the rest of the world so that nobody else could see it. And it's ruled over by these representatives when Ubtao was still a manifest entity and was wandering the land as an individual before he decided to withdraw from mortals and split into these different essences. He created these individuals who look after the place and kind of like his chosen. And They are immortal, I think, or at least very, very long-lived. They basically function as paladins, holy warriors and protectors and rulers, and there's a number of them. There's about 11 of them, and they're kind of like, I don't know, I guess a more primal chieftain-style Jedi council. So these entities are known as Baras. And yeah, so they're basically the leaders of the human population, the stable human population. Otherwise, it's mostly tribal groups making families of, say, 10 to 15 different family groups who form up into a tribe. And they travel around different campsites throughout Chult, migrating around and around. Yeah, it's perpetually quite hot and humid in Chult all the time, so the people there are adapted very well to that sort of environment. And wear sort of minimal furs and things like that, skins, hides and things, but otherwise are very well adapted to living. The jungle provides everything they need, and they're very cautious of the jungle, and they are very reverent of the dinosaurs, as they believe that they were created by Ubtao for a reason. Therefore, they don't kill dinosaurs out of hand for no reason. And they respect them and give them due width to roam and do their thing in the jungle, and don't generally interfere with them because it just generally ends up bad for them anyway. So the dinosaurs aren't prehistoric creatures that survived some great destruction. They weren't creatures that thrived across the world like they did on Earth. That's not the same creatures. Dinosaurs in the Forgotten Realms are quite different. They are not overly, well, they've got the same form, but not the same primitivity, you could say. They're different from the saurians that we dig up fossils of, but they look very similar, and they behave in a similar way because that's the ecological niches that they fill. So they follow that form. See, the niche creates the form. Anyway. So there's also dragon turtles as well around the coastline, particularly where the rivers meet the seas in Chult, and that's quite a significant factor for it being an unexplored region or a forbidden region, because trade ships have to make their way past dragon turtles, which quite often extort captains under threat of utter destruction of their ships in order for some form of tribute. And the locals of Chult have taken to hiring out people to take care of unruly dragon turtles, and the benefit is that the body parts of dragon turtles are extremely expensive, extremely profitable if you can get them to alchemists and things. The city of Mezro, due to a cultural law of the Chultan tribespeople, only one wizard or magic user, or say sorcerer or druid or some such, is allowed to practice their craft per group of tribes, families. So if there's multiple people who practice magic, who have a gift for magic, only one of them can be the official spellcaster of that group, and the other one has to either go into exile and do it in the privacy of the jungle, or they go to Mezro, where they study at the wizard school there, the School of Magic. Now, as you can understand, it's quite a different magic school than anywhere else on Faerun. It's more primeval. It's quite secretive. They don't practice their arts openly. They don't share information with outside wizards who come in visit. It's a place which lends itself to learning a blending of magic, nature, alchemy, that sort of thing, summoning, creature magic, and that sort of thing. It's a very practical school of magic also, and it lends itself to the culture of the tribesfolk as much as it does the arcane lore itself. To them, becoming a protector of the people, mastering your abilities for the good of all, watching for the eventual return of Dendar when she comes back to eat the sun, that sort of thing, and the different sort of, as you can understand, it's quite a different culture, and it's quite a different way that they practice magic there. So the people who learn magic quite often go back to their tribes. They're not even tempted to leave Chult and go and explore the wider world, even if they learn teleportation and things. Chult is their home. The tribes people are their responsibility, and they take it quite seriously. And they feel out of sorts when they go to other parts of the world freezing and forbidding and grey and dull that they are, although safer for sure. So the Batiri are nasty little beggars. They're goblins of green skin. They quite like eating other humanoids. They really enjoy hunting. They're ferocious trackers. They generally exist in darkness. They hunt in darkness. They shelter over the heat of the day in collective huts that are kind of built collectively, and they abandon them and move on, and then sometimes they'll fight over whoever can stay in the hut. These huts are built over great big pits, and they're built mainly to shelter them from the noonday sun. So not a lot of practical use other than basically places where they hang out during the daytime. But at nighttime, they're on the move like army ants. They are ruled over by matriarchs, queens, who maintain their power by fighting anycomers in arena-type combat pits. So gladiatorial fights are fairly common to the Batiri in the jungles. And it would lend itself to some sort of situation where you could actually rise to dominance of a Batiri tribe through sheer power of physical combat. But of course, they're conniving. They're quite likely to poison you as backstab you, so that's something to be wary of. The environment is so hot and humid that anybody who wears metal armor, for instance, say you've got some scale mail or something like that, or a chain mail shirt, because of the padding and the weight of the armor that you wear, if you wear that for an hour, you're going to get a level of fatigue just from wearing armor in the open heat. And even for an hour after you've taken this off, you're still going to suffer from that fatigue of wearing that armor. So and that's cumulative. It can get so exhausting it can almost kill you. So you probably find yourself as an adventurer, or your adventurers, taking to the native habit of wearing a simple leather vest and carrying those oval shields and some sort of handheld weaponry, perhaps a harness or some such to carry other equipment. But you're not going to be overly laden with stuff, and you'll probably find some sort of pack animal, such as a giant riding lizard or one of the more placid vegetarian dinosaurs, to carry stuff around for you. Something as simple as a donkey or something like that is probably going to get eaten fairly quickly. There's all sorts of predators in the Chult jungle. And because of the environment of the Chultan canopy, once you get it, there's kind of four different environments you can be finding. Well, there's a number of different environments you can find yourself in. Swamps, which are full of leeches, and you'll find yourself, so the locals will be carrying around hand axes and bows, clubs, half spears, bowlers, knives, short spears, and you're going to be encountering lizard folk, wild dwarves, who are quite unusual. There'll be chulls and troglodytes and creatures that you normally see only in the Underdark. Can actually exist underneath the jungle canopy. So purple worms actually travel around on the surface, winding around trees and things. So you'll have the occasional mottled worm, such as these are purple worms that immerse themselves in water quite frequently, and they get this mottled appearance. All sorts of creatures that, like fungus and carnivorous plants and vines and things like that you would only normally find in the Underdark, are on the surface underneath the jungle canopy. And it's this dark and shadowy environment which attracted one of the spirit essences, which blended it's sort of a mingling of the evil of Dendar that remains in the world, a spirit essence of Ubtao that separated itself from the rest, and an essence which came under the influence of Shah under her mandate of darkness. And this is a creature known as Eshowe, who became a deity of a group of humans called the Eshowe. And there's some history there, and there was a great battle, and the entire population was genocided, wiped out by one of the Bara, who became a bad guy. He became exiled, and I would imagine that the adventure which Wizards of the Coast is going to bring out will feature the undead horde that he created, kind of to take revenge on the rest of the human population there, over what he sees as the wrong that was done to him for the great justice, the revenge that he inflicted upon the Eshowe by destroying them all. But he kind of went Anakin Skywalker and went to the dark side in the process of killing them all. I mean, he killed the younglings. So yeah, there's that. So Mezro is the city that was created for the humans as a locus of worship of Eshowe. It's a round, heavily fortified, very organized and orderly looking place that the jungle doesn't encroach in. And so that would be quite remarkable. I mean, you don't even have to try to keep the jungle back. It just doesn't touch there because the deity of the area doesn't will it. So yeah, there's also it's a primal landscape. The flame peaks of flame are a volcanic region, so there's all sorts of salamanders and other creatures that are located there. There's wyverns and hydras. There's nagas, trolls, aarakocras. There's a few aarakocras fluttering around. Chults, of course, are horrible damn things. And Yuan-ti. There's Yuan-ti all over the place, and they quite often get involved in the lands that used to border this when it was part of a peninsula. Now that it's an island, the Yuan-ti have gone kind of a little bit dormant. And as we can see in what Chris Perkins has revealed about the new adventure path that Wizards of the Coast are bringing out, we're going to see a Sirak is coming back, one of the most formidable and old liches of the D&D world, who really has it in for adventurers. He's going to be coming back, and he's setting up some sort of a new tomb type situation. So that's quite interesting as well. And there's other locations, such as there's a fort which was built by mercenaries called the Crimson Fists, and they essentially built it as a bastion so they could make forays into the jungle to look into some of these fabulous old treasures and things. Bear in mind, Chult was the location of one of the first empires, the Great Empire, back in the Age of Thunder. So there's very, very ancient structures that are completely subsumed by the jungle, but buried edifices which are choked with fist-sized gems, tons and tons of precious metal and gold things, and fabulous artworks of jade and cut stone and things like that used to grace the necks of Saruk lords and lizard mages and the greatest of the Yuan-ti and that sort of thing, back when they ruled the entire world, when there were the 5 creator races that before the great battle between the dragons and the giants. Of course, it's the deep jungles are located in swamps and things like that, which are home to quite dreadful black dragons. There's also green dragons that still lurk around. On the coastal regions, you'll have bronze dragons that engage in fishing and the occasional ransack of a boat. The trade has started to strike up, and of course, the rumours of great treasures in these lands are not hyperbole. It really is a land of fabulous wealth, incredible wealth. But it is really, really dangerous to go into the deep jungle, and quite often it will be the end of whoever goes in there. The Crimson Fist open their doors of their fort to any adventurers who seek refuge from the jungle, particularly from ravening hordes of Batiri. They find it quite amusing. After all, they established that place as a beachhead so they could go exploring in there, and also for the lands above Mazdaka, where they went searching for fabulous wealth and things as well, and encountered quite a different things. So and Kalimshan and various other neighbouring regions have always had dealings with Chult, and some of the leaders of other areas, Kalimshan, they sent slaves into the jungles who came back with fabulous tales of, evidence of great wealth. They came back laden with gold and gems and told stories of flying multi-headed snakes and snake people and trees that talked and nature spirits that wandered around, and also strange, dark-skinned, light-haired elves that walked under the canopy and put them to sleep and took them into slavery and that sort of thing. I mean, flumps and all that sort of stuff underneath the canopies. So it's a fabulous place to adventure in. And if you go in, you'll start off in the bright sort of mad chaos of the port cities. Oh yeah, I should probably talk about those as well. So as well as the there's other ports as well. Fort Belurian, which is a small outpost belonging to the Flaming Fists. Sorry, they're originally from Baldur's Gate, and there's a colony called Port. I have trouble pronouncing this. Nyaranzaru. Sorry. And of course there's Mezro, and Port Nyanzaru is settled by the Armians, and they in their sort of control of Arm is richly sort of, well, it's a densely populated area which brings in a lot of wealth from the parent state, and a lot of export goes back. But that's the main place where the local tribesfolk will pick up worked metal goods and things like that. And it's probably one of the areas that you're most likely to land when you come into, if you're coming from the main continent, that's probably the place you'll start. So you'll be dealing with Armenians, and yeah. So there's all sorts of rumours and things. There's all sorts of mad sailors' tales of Chult and the dangers there. There's dinosaurs. There's lizard folk who deal with the humans of Chult on a regular sort of basis. There's kobolds in the mountains. There's wild dwarves who are not like your usual history-obsessed kind of, like as stoic and salty as your usual dwarf is. These guys are even more so. They're even more xenophobic and less outgoing, more prone to sticking together against the outsiders, and even more hairy than your average dwarves. And of course they don't have a lot of metal, worked metal, as per usual. They kind of guard it secretly and stuff, and they'll trade it sparingly, because it's certainly a martial advantage against any who come up against them. Their ability to whip out an iron dagger can quickly even a fight when they chop straight through with somebody else's axe or whatever, jawbone club. So yeah, Chult is a very interesting region, and I'm quite looking forward to the Tomb of Annihilation as it comes out. Is it Tomb of Annihilation? I'll leave a link down below where Chris Perkins is talking about the upcoming adventure and how it came to be, and the people who are involved, and his actual philosophy behind getting these projects together, which I really agree with, is bringing the people who were involved in some of the classics of Dungeons and Dragons and bringing them back into the fold, because these people have just amazing imaginations, and particularly some of them they've spent the intervening years playing these adventures over and over again with their friends, and there's many refinements and innovations that they've updated and brought to the scenario. So I'm quite looking forward to what they do with it. And I guess it's appropriate that my next video will be on dinosaurs and talking about the actual ecology of dinosaurs and how they work in Dungeons and Dragons, how you can integrate them well, and the reason why there aren't dinosaurs all over the place in the Forgotten Realms. As you can imagine, it's probably got a lot to do with the fact that these things were created by an entity which has dominion over Chult and Chult alone. And dinosaurs are generally not found in many other places, because there's not a lot of places that they can exist outside of Chult. So we'll cover that in a later video. And yeah, among other things and other videos off my list as I get to them. Thanks for listening, everybody. It's been great to bring this to you. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. Thanks to and welcome to all of the new subscribers. Boy, there's a lot of you. Glad to have you with me, and to all of those of you who are listening to this at work, be productive in your work. To all of those who listen to this to get a nice night's rest, sleep tight, dream of large monsters, and I'll catch you all in the next video.